Hello and welcome back to the Colorado Rockies franchise here on MLB The Show 21. This is the recap of the year one offseason. I streamed it on Thursday. If you want to check out the full thing with more details, it's on my channel. I think it's about an hour and a half long and goes into a good bit more detail. But so we went 56 and 106 in year one of this franchise. The second worst record in the majors, only one game better than the Orioles. It was not a great year for us. We traded away 7 players who are all major league contributors for us, but we did pick up a number of prospects and really rebuilt our farm system. So we've taken the full rebuild approach, and we're going to try and build up with some of these prospects that we acquired and see what they're able to do. So we're going to head into the offseason. Our third base coach retires. Our contract with our first base coach ends. And I really wanted to revamp and overhaul our coaching staff. So in terms of retired players, we see guys like Chris Davis retire. And then a number of retirees, Jay Happ, Drew Butera, Sergio Romo, Jeff Mathis, who had another great year if you consider what he does great, which I do. Adam Wainwright, and then Johnny Cueto and Evan Longoria both had to retire due to injuries. So that's 2 pretty big losses for the Giants. And then Albert Pujols is the only player who gets into the Hall of Fame as he retires, one of the best players of all time. So we would go into the early re-signing portion, had 2 options on Tim Collins and Hector Rondon. We would decline both of those and release all 4 players there, Matt Adams and Chris Owings as well. So we would fire our hitting coach and Bud Black, our manager, make some offers here for our hitting coach, Patrick Cabrera, who I think added some nice statistics. Pete Walker at first base, adds some reaction, stealing speed with only losing some blocking. I thought that would be a good add for us. Helps our fielding and our base running. Then third base coach, speed, arm strength, and a big boost to fielding and just lose some durability. And then for our manager, we would go out and get Michael Blair, or offer them a contract, I should say. He gives a boost to power, clutch, stealing, and durability, so it sort of negates the loss on the third base coach. So going through, Michael Blair does accept our offer, and then Patrick Cabrera is going to the Giants instead to be their hitting coach. So we would have to go out and try and find another hitting coach, and I think I found an even better one. +2 to vision, discipline, and contact while just losing drag bunting. Then we get into free agency with a pretty good free agency class, I would say. Guys like Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Story, Noah Cindergard, Carlos Correa, Michael Conforto, Lance Lynn, Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Corey Seager. Corey Seager was very interesting to me. He's only 27 years old, one of the best hitting shortstops in all of baseball. But I just didn't think right now would be the best time for us to make that move. I didn't think that's the position we're necessarily in. So after getting a preview of this class, we would go and re-sign all of our players for the most part. This is very tedious as we're just offering contracts to players currently on our team. For everyone who is renewable, we just offer the league minimum, and for minor leaguers, just offer them the league minimum for them as well. And then there were a few players we wouldn't offer a contract to, but for the most part wanted to bring everyone back. Jose Briseño adds depth at catcher. Dom Nunez wasn't great for us in year one, but still only 27 years old. He did hit 10 home runs, and we do need a catcher on this team. So we would try and bring him and Elias Diaz back. But as you can see, for the most part, trying to bring everyone back, except for a few veterans and a couple of prospects who were lower potential, but wanted to keep the majority of this team intact. Derek Rodriguez was an interesting one. He was really bad for us, but only made 4 starts, only 27 years old, and him and Chi Gonzalez were in a very similar territory to me. I don't necessarily know if Derek Rodriguez will play a ton in the majors this year with how he performed last year and if we're able to add in free agency, but I thought it would be worthwhile to bring him back. He still has a little bit of potential to get better. Then salary arbitration, just trying to offer them the best deal to try and save us some money. In terms of Chi Gonzalez, he was a guy I non-tendered, didn't want to bring him back. He was bad for us. 28 years old, see potential. I don't see him doing very much. Everyone else got an arbitration offer though. So into free agency, like I said, Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Story. Kershaw getting a big offer from the Dodgers. The Tampa Bay Rays trying to bring back Trevor Story, who they traded for. That would be a big signing for them at a shortstop for the long term. Noah Cindergard getting lowballed by the Mets. A lot of these guys early on were getting lowballed, but majority of them were veterans towards the top of this, so I didn't necessarily feel like they were someone I wanted to bring in at a high price. Brad Miller was interesting to me. He can play every position except for catcher, hits for a little bit of power, and has great discipline, so he can draw walks as well. And that's the type of guy I was looking for in this offseason. Positional flexibility in terms of our position players, and then just can add a presence to the team and hopefully improve us a little bit and just add a foundation for this roster to help us when our prospects do get called up. So I wanted to go out and get a starting pitcher. Robbie Ray was asking for more money than I was willing to give him. Justin Verlander had really regressed. Steven Matz, still only 30, was coming for about half the price as Robbie Ray. He has good stuff, and I thought he would be interesting for us to get. Third base coach accepts, and then our first base coach accepts, and then we see Clayton Kershaw not staying with the Dodgers. He's going to go cross town to the Los Angeles Angels, I should say, on a 5-year, $152 million year deal that will last him a long time. And then Trevor Story gets a massive contract, 7 years, $31 million per year from the Oakland Athletics. Didn't expect them to drop that kind of money on Trevor Story, but I think he'll be a big addition to them and hopefully help them compete for World Series championships. Michael Conforto signs with the White Sox. They had a really good offseason. They added a number of new players as he now joins Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez in the outfield. So that has to be the best outfield in baseball potentially. Then we would make some moves on our 40-man roster, taking off Jordan Sheffield, Julian Fernandez, and a number of other guys, just trying to really cut this number down for the Rule 5 draft and for free agent signings as well. There were a number of guys on here who I don't necessarily want to get rid of, but I don't think it's worthwhile having them on the 40-man roster right now. Chris Russin and Taylor Motta were both non-tendered, so they became free agents along with Chi Gonzalez, like I said. And then a few other moves we made here towards the bottom of the 40-man roster for the most part. So in terms of adding guys to the 40-man roster, there was really only one I was interested in, and that was Casey Golden. He has decent hitting statistics, is a decent fielder. His vision isn't great, but I think as a guy to invite to spring training could be interesting for us. And then we add Rodney Stroud to the AA team along with Joseph Joy, and we see they're both top 50 prospects in the game. Greg Byrd was a guy I considered adding to the 40-man roster, but I think we can wait on that, and if we don't get production from our first baseman, then we could add him to the 40-man if he performs in the minor leagues and see what he's able to do for us there. So we would go ahead and move forward as we had our offers out to Brad Miller and to Steven Matz. Neither would accept for a little bit, but then we would get into more free agents who are available if they weren't offered salary arbitration. So that opened up some new opportunities for us. Brad Miller and Steven Matz do both eventually sign, so we get a new starting pitcher and a utility guy who can play around the field and could potentially be a starter for us. A lot of these guys in free agency, they'll always be older, and that was the case once again. Jake Mariznick was interesting to me. He plays good defense, has good speed, which I'm looking for in the outfield in Coors, and also hits for some power along with decent contact. And I thought he would be an interesting guy for us as just another outfield option to pair with Tapia, Daza, Hilliard, and potentially Garrett Hampson, depending on where we want to play him. And then one guy I was really excited about to see available was Nico Goodrum. Another guy, he can play every position in the field except for catcher. He absolutely kills lefty in terms of contact and plays excellent defense, so I think he could fit in the outfield or in the infield and play basically every day against lefties and also play against righties as well, just because of the value he provides as a defender and with his speed as well. So majority of these guys we would offer a little under what they were asking for, and then majority got a 2-year deal for the most part. Pat Valaika was interesting, another guy with positional flexibility, which is very important to me, and sort of similar in a way to Nico Goodrum in that he kills lefties, and I think there definitely can be a role for him in a platoon, as I was also trying to find guys who would fit in a platoon to try and get more value out of different positions without superstars on this team. And he played for the Colorado Rockies in the past, and I was very interested by him. Then Alex Reyes was available, only a 67 overall. He struggled last year. He walked more guys than he struck out, but with stuff like he has and his potential to still develop at only 27 years old, it was very much worth it to me to try and get him. I gave him what he wanted because it wasn't a whole lot. And I think if he could just cut down on the walks, he could be a very, very good player for us in the bullpen and potentially be our closer. Mike Fultonevich was another interesting guy. He just has very good stuff, doesn't necessarily always know where it's going, and he does struggle with his control and other parts of the game, but I thought he would be worth just as another guy to add as a potential either in the starting rotation, a long relief guy, or even as a reliever with how good his stuff is. So we had 5 more contracts go out, and then we see Chris Bryant is going to be leaving the Cubs and heading to the Nationals. We pick up a signing from Nico Goodrum, who automatically is one of our highest rated players at a 77 overall. Then Pat Valaika signs, and Alex Reyes signs as well. So we get 2 more signings that I think both could pay off for us. If not, they're short deals where it doesn't make a huge impact on our budget, and we do have a ton of money left. Jake Mariznick would sign and is another guy just adding to this roster, trying to build a foundation, throwing darts at the wall and see who sticks. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to Detroit on a big 4-year deal. Then we got into players who were non-tendered in terms of renewable contracts, and Greg Allen was interesting to me as I don't think he'll be on the major league roster to start the year, but with that arm strength, defensive potential, and maybe could hit a little bit against righties, could be a very valuable player for us in Coors with our big outfield. Taylor Widener didn't play in the majors last year, but he throws hard, good stuff overall, strikes out batters, and doesn't have a horrible walk per 9. And just as another guy, add him to the mix in our starting rotation and see who sticks and what we're able to get out of them, and mix and match, and hopefully we can find some players who can contribute for us and make this team better. Noah Cindergard will be returning to the team that drafted him on a massive deal, so he goes back to the Blue Jays. And then the White Sox add Corey Seager. Not a massive deal like I thought he would get. I would have been interested in him at that number, but I just didn't think it was the right time for us to commit that amount of money when we're still towards the bottom in the majors. So some more 40-man roster moves as we remove a couple more relievers to just open up some spots for the Rule 5 draft. So we have 3 spots open entering the draft, and we have the number 2 pick overall. So with the first pick, Chad De La Guerra gets taken by the Orioles, 28-year-old infielder. Malik Smith was the player that the computer recommended to me. He's interesting. His defense just isn't very good, so I didn't feel like he would necessarily be a great fit for us. Sir Anthony Dominguez was available, throws 98 with a nasty slider. Hasn't played in the majors in the last 2 years, so got taken off the 40-man, and we would add him potentially as our closer, as with stuff like that and a potential to be really good, I think that's worth us adding. A few of these players shouldn't have been available as they don't have any major league service time, and they shouldn't have to be on the 40-man roster to not be Rule 5 eligible. But that wasn't the case, so you have a guy like Logan Gilbert who gets drafted. One of the Mariners' top prospects gets stolen by the Nationals, so stinks to see that, but nothing we can really do about it. Then in the second round, I was looking around and I just didn't see anyone who I felt like would be worthwhile keeping on our major league roster for the duration of the entire season, especially with what we added in free agency. So we would skip our selection and only a couple more players were picked after that. But right away, Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in and he is our number 1 reliever. So free agency isn't the only way that you can add talent to your team. We've seen it that we added prospects in trade, but I wanted to go out and see if we could find a major league player that we could add, and that would be Franmil Reyes. He's strictly a DH. We can't play him in the outfield. He's not good enough in Coors. He wasn't great with an OPS only around 700 last year, but with his hitting ratings, his track record in previous seasons, and if he can just stay healthy for us, I think he would be a massive contributor. They already have Luplow, who's ahead of him in right field. So Carl Kaufman is one of our lower rated pitching prospects, but still does have B potential. And then Josh Fuentes, I didn't see him having a role for us moving forward. He's great against righties, and he has excellent defense, so he could play third or first depending on what the Indians would prefer. And then I would go ahead and throw in Brandon Gold just to sweeten the pot a little bit, another B potential pitcher to try and make this deal a little more palatable to the Indians, as I think we get an excellent player in Franmil Reyes, who immediately comes in and he's our second best player in terms of overall right away, and will hit in the heart of our lineup hopefully for years to come at only 26 years old. And with that power in Coors, I think he could do some very great things for us. So we go through winter meetings after the Reyes trade, and we see Carlos Correa. It took him a while to get a contract, but he does get one from the Miami Marlins, so they make a big splash in free agency. And then back to our roster, we have 90 players currently on there, and the reliever situation just wasn't great. We needed to go out and try and find someone who could help us out there, and Mark Malanson had an insane season last year. He pitched 45 innings with an ERA of 1, and I think he adds a nice veteran presence to our bullpen. He could be our closer depending on how he plays. I do expect him to regress, but I think he could still add value and hopefully help us out. So he would accept our offer and immediately add a stabilizing presence to our bullpen. We would up the offer to Mike Fultonevich and he would sign it. And then going through arbitration, we lost almost all of these except for one or two, I believe. It's hard. I never really know where I should put these numbers. So we end up losing the majority of them. I wasn't too hurt by it. We have a ton of salary available, so it wasn't a big deal at the end of the day. But like you can see, we lose the majority of these. But hopefully that'll just help out our morale with these players as they get the money that they want. So we look at our depth chart now. I think we've improved this team in a variety of areas. We've really raised the floor of the team. I think our ceiling still isn't probably a 500 team, but adding guys who can provide value in platoons, positional flexibility in the bullpen, and in our starting rotation, I think really helps us out. And then getting Franmil Reyes, who adds immediate offensive impact compared to probably only Trevor Story that we've had so far in this series. So we do add, I think it was around 15 new major league players to this team. And I'll look here just to see some of the moves that we made after the new year, just to see some of the numbers in case you missed them, and then sending players up and down, and also removing people from the 40-man roster. So our minor leagues, we have a good bit of prospects in there. I want to go through the draft once again and try and add even more players to this farm system, as I'm hoping some of these prospects can make it to the majors this year. Guys like Shane Baz, Xavier Edwards, Royce Lewis, Hunter Green. Hunter Green has been added to the 40-man roster, so he will be a part of spring training. Just hoping to see young impact come up to the majors. And something to also keep in mind is if we have a prospect killing it at AAA or something, the guys I signed in free agency are not going to stop him from making it to the majors. I'll trade them, send them down, cut them, whatever I need to do, as the prospects are the most important thing to me right now. But we still have around $57 million available in terms of cap space and available budget. So moving forward, we still have a lot of room left, and majority of these deals were 2-year deals or guys who will still be arbitration eligible that we signed after they were non-tendered. So we have the ability to get out of these deals pretty quickly. If we ever did need to open up more space, I don't see the need for that necessarily. But in free agency next year, I am expecting us to make a little bit more of splashy moves compared to the moves that we made this year. But I hope you did enjoy today's episode. If you did, please leave a like down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more of the Colorado Rockies franchise and see how this team performs in Season 2. Leave a comment down below on which player that we signed or acquired in this offseason that you are most excited to see take the field for us in Season 2. But I will see you next time. I think the next episode, I'm going to stream some spring training. I'm hoping maybe Sunday night to see if I can get a live stream going. But I'll definitely let y'all know earlier in the day. I'll post a live reminder so you can see when the live stream will be happening. But I'll see you next time for that live stream. Have a great rest of your day.